We'll get the show started. Again, appreciate everybody being here. I think we got a nice little agenda tonight, and hopefully we get some things accomplished. First thing on the agenda is actually a public hearing. It's about an ordinance amending the planned residential development, which is PRDs, what we call it, zone parking regulations. Anyone here to talk about that tonight? All right. If not, I'll close that public hearing. Move into our regular meeting. And we'll start off with the opening prayer by Vice Mayor Dixon.
Let us all pray. Dear God, we thank you for another day, another moment, another time, God, to go about. We thank you for giving us health and strength and activity, Lord God, to do the business that we need to do. We thank you, God, for your mercy and your abundant grace in our lives that guides us from day to day. God, we're grateful to live in this country, in this community, Lord, where, God, we appreciate our freedoms. And we just thank you, God, from whom all blessings flow. God, this evening, Lord, there are many that are sick and afflicted. God, there are those that are caring for those that are sick and afflicted. And we ask, God, that you watch over them, give them strength, Lord God, comfort them, encourage them, God, in this particular moment in time. God, we ask that you guide the deliberations of this meeting. We ask that everything that we do be decent and in order. And these and other things, God, we ask in your name. We do pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Adam. Ruth, who do you have for the pledge?
Nancy Kavanaugh.
All right, thank you, Nancy.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Nancy. All right, roll call.
Mayor Best.
Here.
Alderman Callahan. Alderman Causey.
Here.
Alderman Countermine.
Here.
Alderman Dixon.
Here.
Okay, we're all present except for Stephen. Wish him safe travels. Next item on the agenda is actually our consent agenda. There's one thing there I think it'd be a good idea to add to the agenda. That's the information. I think it was in Glenn, your packet there, about the quote from Bernard Roofing. Craig's. Okay. Let's add that to the agenda so we can approve that bid or fix that roof at our treatment plant. Bid come in at $39,736. Sounds like a reasonable bid. Alderman, can we add that to the consent agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Causey, a second from Alderman Countermine. Any discussion? Call for vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Okay, we just added that to our consent agenda. Is there anything else about the consent agenda, Alderman, that you'd like to discuss? Okay, if not, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Motion to approve from Alderman Dixon.
Second.
Second from Alderman Countermine. Call for vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. And most of you can read there on the consent on the our agenda if you have that, what we approved there during the consent agenda. One was been that roofing plan. We've had some leaks at our plant that we needed to fix for a while, so we got that taken care of. But there's about five personnel items in there. One thing I like that we just approved the bid for some plant material down at Wetlands Water Parks. We're trying to make some improvements down there. Matt's done a good job, but it's time for us to put some more flowers in and beautify that place a little bit. I think we've improved the parking lot and got it sealed and striped, so we should have a nice look down there this year.
Looks really good.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along, we'll get into the financial report. And one thing I always like to talk about is our sales tax, collections from one year to the next, and it's always good to see those numbers growing, and it's been growing for a while for the town of Jonesborough, and it continues to grow. Another record February for the town of Jonesborough. A little less of an increase than maybe what we've had in the past, and I think as we get into the meat of the year here, March, April, and May, we'll probably see those large increases we've seen kind of somewhat level out. So we'd be interested to see what March and April come in. If we can match last year's number with all that was going on, if we can match that number, that will be a success. And I fully expect us to match that. So great sales tax revenue, continue to roll in. Alderman, you got any other comments about our financial report? Things look to be really in line. Our solid waste fund's a little bit down. It's because we're not be able to sell our recyclables and things like that. So we're a little under budget there, but we're certainly made up for it in other areas. And we're discussing some things in our budget about getting that recycling program going again. We might have to bite the bullet and hire some folks and just do that ourselves. But we'll develop a good plan and get that fund back in line. Alderman, if no other questions, I'll take a motion to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Causey,
Second.
second from Alderman Dixon. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Kelly.
Aye. All right, motion carried. All right, next item on the agenda is communications from the mayor. And the first thing I'd like to do, we've got a proclamation for Statehood Day, and we've got Mayor Joe Grandy here from Washington County. They had a big successful endeavor between them and the state, and Joe's got some good news for us. So Joe, if you'd like to come up and tell us about your Statehood Day.
Mayor, thank you for the opportunity, and board. No stranger to the group here, Ned Irvin, our archivist, was very instrumental in a lot of hard work and coordination with state representatives, senators, and really the entire Northeast delegation of our state legislature to work hard to convince the Secretary of State to relinquish some records that are slightly overdue from the library, but with no penalty imposed, we've agreed to accept these back. And these are documents from the Deed Book A, and if you have questions about it, Ned's here to answer any of those. But the original land transfers in this part of the country, which was then really North Carolina, between the native Indians and first settlers. So it's pretty exciting documents. As a result, we would like to coordinate, we are planning to coordinate with the governor's office, who intends to bring them personally to Jonesborough on June the 1st. And so that's Statehood Day, first day of the 225th anniversary of the state of Tennessee celebration. So you'd like to begin that celebration here in Jonesborough, and so what we're asking is to partner with the town of Jonesborough in a day of celebration of statehood, inviting the governor here in a little bit of fanfare towards the end of the day. The thought is to allow him to bring these in on horse and buggy or some other traditional means,
Yeah.
and present those to Archivist Ned Irving on the courthouse steps. Realizing that at a similar time during the day, there's a statehood celebration planned in the park where the
Mill Spring Park?
Park.
Mill Springs Park with the pavilion is. So we hope that we'll be able to coordinate the two events and make it a big town celebration. And we're just asking you for your support in that, your support in coordinating with us a celebration of Statehood Day, and to welcome the governor to town and to welcome back these documents, having been lost or at least misplaced in Nashville for the last 125 years.
Well, I've got a proclamation, and we got that on our agenda. I'm gonna come down and do the proclamation, and maybe the alderman will go ahead and approve that on our agenda item. And we appreciate your work on this. I heard you had a big effort on this.
Well, I had a little help.
Well, it takes that, it certainly does. Whereas on June 1st, 1796, Tennessee was admitted to the Union as the 16th state of the United States. And whereas all across Tennessee, June 1st is celebrated as Statehood Day, with historical sites and museums participating in and offering events to educate the public about state history. And whereas our region of Northeast Tennessee played an important and influential role in the years leading up to statehood, with Jonesborough formed in 1779 as the first town in the region and the first county seat for the first county in the state. And whereas Jonesborough has played a significant and influential role in the development of the state through its political and judicial role throughout the history of the state, including the first capital of the state of Franklin, the predecessor of the state of Tennessee. And whereas Jonesborough's Main Street has been the site of the first courthouse for the registering of land grants, judicial proceedings, protests, and First Amendment activities to take place since 1779, and whereas the designers and engravers of the state seal, William and Matthew Atkinson, created the Great Seal of the State of Tennessee in 1801 in their silversmith shop on Main Street in Jonesborough. Authorized by the 1796 state constitution, but was used by the second governor of the state, Archibald Roane, in 1802, with little revisions since. And whereas June 1st, 2021 will be Tennessee's 225th anniversary of statehood, which will be celebrated across the region with planned events culminating on the evening of June 1st in Jonesborough. Then, now, I, Chuck Vest, Mayor of the town of Jonesborough, do hereby proclaim June 1st, 2021 as Statehood Day in the town of Jonesborough, Tennessee, and encourage all fellow citizens to learn about and celebrate their state and local history. Pretty amazing to read all that. You just keep hearing this history. You learn something about Jonesborough almost every day if you do. Nick, would you like to say anything?
I just appreciate this being my hometown and growing up with all this history over the years. And now getting the opportunity the last several years to help preserve that history.
We appreciate your
And thank you all for your all support in our effort.
Very good. I think Tom wants to try to snap a picture, I think, holding this proclamation up here.
On your back. There you
All right. All right. Thank you, Joe. We'll go up here and get this approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. I never knew Jonesborough had an impact of the state seal. It's pretty good to learn that. All right, Alderman, let's jump into, let's do 2A. And
2B.
you've got a recommendation to approve this joint event between Washington County and Jonesborough. I'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Alderman Countermine.
Second.
Second from Alderman Causey. Any discussion? All right, call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, very good, that carried. We'd hate not to have that event since it's so important. Next item, just some comments, kind of ties in with what we just did right there. I had the chance to speak to a group today, and I really got a chance. I love giving speeches about Jonesborough, and I had the chance to really talk about our history again, and it's kind of what we just went through right there. It's kind of amazing. And as I was writing my words out, and I was learning about Jonesborough, I learned that Willie Jones is who Jonesborough was named after. He come out of North Carolina, and it had something to do with the statehood or the state of Franklin. So it's kind of neat to learn that. But also, my daughter Avery and I, we spent a lot of time going to Blowing Rock area. She loved to go up there, and there's a nice memorial park up there called Moses Cone Memorial Park. It's got a beautiful lake called Price Lake. You can take a canoe out on and do all those nice things. Great hiking trails. But they've got this huge home up there. It's the Moses Cone home that's under renovation now, but it's beautiful. And I didn't know until last night, as I was reading through and learning about Jonesborough's history, that Moses Cone and his family actually lived here in Jonesborough. They, I think, were some Jewish businessmen, and they were run out of Virginia, and they ended up here in Jonesborough and started a small little shop selling apparel and ready-to-wear clothing, I guess they called it. We take it for granted today. But the Cone family and Moses Cone ended up being legends in the textile industry. And you've probably seen Cone on a lot of textile products out there. And the Moses Cone ended up being the largest, or the world's largest producer of quality denim in the world. And again, you got to start here in Jonesborough. I also got a chance to talk about Alfred Martin Ray, who was he was involved in the Spanish-American War. He was born into slavery here in Jonesborough and ended up, after the Civil War, joining the U.S. Army, went into the 10th U.S. Cavalry, and became a member of what they called the Buffalo Soldiers. And he played a big part in the Battle of San Juan Hill and is credited with carrying the American flag up the hill. So it's great to share that with people, because a lot of those things I learned, and I know the room that I was in, I guarantee they didn't know hardly any of that. And when you start learning about Jonesborough's rich history, you're just like amazed every time you learn something. So we've got a lot to be thankful for, and I'll tie that in, and because a lot of my talk up there too was about the decisions small towns like Jonesborough made back in the 60s and 70s, when a lot of our jobs were kind of going overseas. The textile industry and furniture industry was devastated. And I give credit to our former mayor, Jimmy Neal Smith, back in the 70s, had the vision that, Jonesborough could have been just like those other towns, dried up and go away. But he had the vision to use our history and the stories inside these buildings as a way to economically push Jonesborough forward. And we're still benefiting that today. What we have before us is just a beautiful blessing that a lot of people played a part in. So I enjoyed having a chance to talk about that, and I actually got to learn that Andrew Jackson, the ghost of Andrew Jackson, does walk into the Christopher Taylor house, I think, on occasion, maybe down Main Street. So I said he's probably going to be waiting in line for the Jackson Theater to open up, because he thinks that's named after him. So that was good. Our next thing on the agenda is our Employee of the Month. We've got a great staff here in Jonesborough, so it's always nice to recognize our employees. So Ron Galenwater, if you'll come forward. I get to read some nice things about you. You probably know them all. All right. This was from Raymond. He said, I would like to nominate Ron Galenwater for May Employee of the Month. Ron provides daily maintenance and facility upkeep at the Visitor Center, garage facilities, downtown restrooms, Gillespie Building, and the town gym recreation building. That's a lot of stuff to take care of. He is also solely responsible for all the setups and takedowns of private and community and committee rentals in the auditorium and the community rooms at the Visitor Center, as well as setup, cleanup of the community events that are held at the Visitor Center. With rental setups, it can require Ron to work on Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes working 7 days a week, and then back at 7 a.m. on Monday. He is also very familiar with working nights and weekends throughout the year to help out with additional assistance when needed for large town events such as Jonesborough Days and Chocolate Fest and National Storytelling Festival. Over the past year with the COVID pandemic, Ron has worked double time in keeping our essential workers healthy while on the job. During his time, he has maintained a schedule of sanitized and shared and public spaces that helped us keep our workforce present and our office and buildings clean. Thank you for that. He continually goes above and beyond his job duties and tasks, and always with a smile on his face. He is the first person to jump in and offer assistance when help is needed. He keeps our facilities in tip-top shape for staff and visitors. The Visitor Center welcomes many guests to Tennessee's oldest town through its doors, and they are always receiving feedback about the cleanliness of the facility and its restroom. Ron is also great to help out with maintenance of other town facilities as well. He does so with no strain of any of his full-time duties. For these reasons, he nominates you as Employee of the Month. We appreciate you, Ron. I think they want to take a little picture of us. If you've got something you'd like to say, All right. Ron, anything you'd like to share?
Sheriff.
Well, I'd just like to thank everybody, thank Amber for writing.
That's good. They, I'm sure make a good work atmosphere there for you, but we appreciate what you do. It is, we go in there and have meetings, and it is always spick and span.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderman, that's all I've got. Next item on the agenda is Alderman Communications. Alderman, anything you'd like to share with the community, Virginia?
I have one thing, and I've talked to Glenn, and I think I've talked to Craig, but our Park and Recreation Department has one truck that's left in their department. They borrowed one. And I don't know how you all feel, but I feel like it's an embarrassment to see some of these vehicles that we have when other departments has great vehicles. I think we sold his vehicles, 3 of them in November, in order to buy something, and we haven't bought anything. I think we need to step up
Improve
and
that.
do something.
I'd probably agree with you. Glenn, have we got something like that in our budget coming up?
We're planning on it, and I guess I also hinted at it in my town administrator report.
Yeah.
Not just vehicles, but
People.
equipment,
Yeah.
bridges, roads. Kind of went through a whole gamut of things, so I totally agree. I think got down to where they had 4, down to 1. Then I think the one needed a transmission. Then we borrowed one from another department, so 100% agree. We will have a plan to put them in vehicles to get them there.
All right.
We're proud of Jonesborough, and when you see a truck like they had up on
Yeah.
11E the other day, it looks
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Very good. Thank you, Virginia. It's good to
You're
point that out. And you make sure that happens. I know you will.
I'll stay on it.
Adam, Terry, got anything you'd like to share?
Well, I think in relationship to the statehood, that we have 2 people here in the audience. I know it's Dr. Bill Kennedy, who for 50 years, the town wouldn't look like it does without you, Bill.
Yeah.
And thank you. And Ann Fellers Mason, with the Heritage Alliance, that group really does a lot to keep our town as a place to be proud of.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Thank you, Terry.
Oh, I got one other thing.
Yes, sir.
Saturday morning, we had 40 people gathered by Food City parking lot. And between 8 and 12, went up and down Forest Avenue and Stage Road and Stage Road Park and Depot Street and Route 34 out by the town garage and picked up garbage. And those people are to be commended, and hopefully you'll notice a difference. One thing I noticed, that there was a lot of beer bottles, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a tough year.
Yeah, I was.
But I was impressed, and Jeff Thomas really stepped up.
I wanted to give Matt some kudos too. I was at Stage Park, and it looked really good. So
Yeah, they did.
I mean, we had some picking up, and then another group, the adults, went down Stage Road, but the park ultimately looked really good. So
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Be proud of Jonesborough.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very good. Very good.
Adam?
I just want to say Alfred Ray was my great-great-uncle.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So,
wonderful.
yeah.
So you come to our meetings, you learn something every time.
It's an educational experience.
That's right. All right. Now we'll move into town attorney comments.
Mayor, one matter tonight, it's really a housekeeping matter. I put a packet in front of you. We need to deal with an alley off West College Street. This alley was closed back in 2006 by ordinance, so it's already closed. In the past, we've taken the position that when an alley closed, property owners could submit a quitclaim deed to us, and we would quitclaim the property to them. There was a gentleman that was interested in doing that back at that time, but never did do that. I've kind of rethought my recommendation on how we handle those to you all, because what happens is if nothing goes on, there's still an issue of whether or not we have control of that alley, which could be a liability issue. So I think it's important that we try to get rid of those properties when we've abandoned an alley like that. We don't abandon an alley for no reason. If we've abandoned it because there is, in this case, it's cut off, there's no, you couldn't even get all the way to Angle Street if we wanted to. So for that reason, we entered into some discussions when the Rosenoffs bought their property about trying to move this forward a little bit. And we have written to all of the property owners along the alley on both sides, reminding them that the alley was closed, which they were notified of in 2006, but also offering them an opportunity to join with the Rosenoffs to split the cost of the surveying and to obtain the alley, half of the alley next to them, or adjoining their property. We've heard back from all but one. On the map you see there in front of you, parcel 7, we have not heard back from that property owner. We've written them twice, and we've advised them in the second letter that we would be presenting this to you tonight. What we're recommending doing is executing quitclaim deed. The property owner is providing us with a survey, and then executing a quitclaim deed that would deed the section of the alley that goes from, it's off the map there, but College Street there, down to the first red line that goes across the alley, that we deed that. The Rosenoffs adjoin that the entire way. They are the only ones who've expressed an interest along that section of the alley of obtaining it. Then from that mark down to the end of the alley, except for that one little narrow section, would be deeded to Chad Bennett, who owns parcel 3, who's expressed an interest in obtaining the sections next to him. And then that last little small section to Eva Daniels, parcel 10, who's expressed an interest in obtaining the section of the alley next to her. Both Ms. Daniels, or all rather, Ms. Daniels, Mr. Bennett, and the Rosenoffs have agreed that they will split the cost. They'll have to get their heads together to figure out how to split that up of the survey. They all have indicated an interest in working together on that. I did feel like that we should come back to you all for your approval for the mayor in this situation to execute. Sometimes we have the town administrator execute the deed, but in this case, because he's one of the recipients, we felt like we needed to do it with the mayor. And just wanted your all's okay that we prepare that deed, that's the only departure from what we've done in the past, is that we're going to actively participate in preparing the deed to make sure it gets done and we get out of that alley. The town will no longer have any interest. If that is acceptable to you tonight, I would ask that you add that to your agenda, and then a motion to approve the town attorney drafting and the mayor executing that quitclaim deed upon the property owners providing us a survey.
All right, Alderman, you've heard the presentation by our town attorney. Is any questions about that? Otherwise, we'll need to have a motion to add that to our agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Got a motion to approve, to add that to our agenda. Alderman Dixon, second by Alderman Countermine. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. And now, Jim, you want just a motion to approve you working on this deed, quitclaim deed?
And authorizing the mayor to sign the quitclaim deed
Okay.
to deed these properties to the adjoining property owners as shown on that map.
Okay. Alderman, you got any questions about that? If not, I'll take
So
a motion.
moved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Alderman Causey. Madam Recorder, call for the vote, please.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. All right, we'll work on that. It looks like that's going to be a good solution for that little area there. And I know I've had a few phone calls about that alley over the years, so it's good to see some getting resolved on that. Anything else, Jim?
That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is our citizens' comments. If you're a citizen of our town or one of our water customers, we'd love to hear from you. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share with us tonight? Come on up, Bill. If you would, just state your name and address for the records.
I'm Bill Kennedy, William E. Kennedy at 400 West Main Street. And I'm here to ask you to deny the special event permit application by Tennessee Hills for their bike nights. That's number 7E on your agenda. And I'd like to address you concerning that. As you've mentioned already, Mayor Best, the town built its future on its past in the past 50 years. We've just last year celebrated 50 years of historic zoning here in Jonesborough. When my family and I moved here 48 years ago, the town was a dying town. And we've been able to turn that around. And of course, we all are enjoying that today and feel very good about it. Why do people come here to live and to visit here? The most common reason that I have heard that's behind the reason of coming for a special event, such as the Storytelling Festival, or Chocolate Fest, or Music on the Square, or JRT, Jonesborough Repertory Theater, is because they identify with living here. When they see the town, they see that it's a beautiful town, it's a comfortable town, it's a town that inspires the highest among us of our ideals. It has an exceptional level of quality experience that it offers and of quality of life. And so years ago, as we were developing the town from a dying town and building it into a prosperous town that we have here today and a beautiful town that we have here today, we asked one question most commonly that was very important. And that is, what is good for our citizens? Anything that we do for our visitors should also be good for our citizens. And if you think about it, almost everything that we've done has passed that test. Storytelling, Jonesborough Repertory Theater, Music on the Square, Chocolate Fest, go on and on and on. Those things have been very good for our citizens and for our visitors, and that has helped our visitors identify with living in this town, and that has been one of the factors that has drawn people to live in this town, made them want to live in this town. It has stimulated us creatively, as well as inspiring the highest ideals among us. And so we've built our town around our history and around the arts, and the arts, of course, include a good presentation of our heritage and also the performing arts, the theater, the storytelling, and the music. These activities and our quality of life can accommodate alcoholic beverages when they're balanced by food. Some years ago, I remember very well that we passed an ordinance for liquor by the drink, allowing liquor by the drink. I remember it extremely well because it was highly controversial. It passed, the referendum passed by 18 votes. That's very close. 18 votes. And I was glad that it passed because I feel that our various activities can accommodate a balance of alcoholic beverages and food. But for us to have activities that encourage drinking has never been a part of our plan and has been inconsistent with the character of the town of Jonesborough. And what we have had in recent weekends at Tennessee Hills Distillery has been parties that have been encouraging drinking. Here, this request for tonight, bike night, invites here the wrecking crew, and I take that figuratively. I don't take it literally. But I do not see in it a balance with food and drink. And I have not seen a balance with food and drink in the weekend activities that we have had recently at Tennessee Hills Distillery. Now, let me mention to you that also, as chairman of the Historic Zoning Commission, I actually worked personally to help Stephen Callahan get two of the major things that he really wanted to get past the Historic Zoning Commission. One of them was the addition to his building, the Salt House, which he told us at the time was for increased production. He did not tell us that it was for having drinking parties, but that's the way it's turned out to be. The other thing that I worked through the Historic Zoning Commission to help him get was his free tasting sign, which is a sale sign, which was contrary to the guidelines of the Historic Zoning Commission. But we reasoned that this was a reasonable exception under our Historic Zoning Commission guidelines because it needed to be seen from Main Street. And so we passed that as an exception with good rationale. And I worked for him to get that because I thought that was reasonable. But I think that the weekend activities that he has been sponsoring lately are unreasonable. I think that he needs to take into consideration that right across the street there are residences. We need to take into consideration in all of our activities here in the Historic Central Business District that it is also a residential area. And we need to respect the property owners' rights of those residential areas, and we need to respect their needs to have peace and quiet at a reasonable time of an evening. And we do not need to have parties that are going on that require security of various kinds that we don't normally have here in Jonesborough. We asked whether or not the wrecking crew, sponsored obviously by Tennessee Hills Distillery. By the way, when you look at this, I assume you've seen this announcement. This announcement has gone out before Mr. Callahan had a permit to sponsor or to carry on this activity. This was already out. It's in my hands already, and I can show it to you here as I'm doing before he's got the permit from the Board of Mayor and Alderman. This is very presumptive on his part. Mr. Callahan, particularly in recent months, has not shown any inhibition or respect for the town of Jonesborough that he claims that he respects, that he claims is his hometown. He has not shown any judgment about keeping a balance, a reasonable balance between food and drink. And this is bothersome because this is quite contrary to the direction that we have been working for the past 50 years in the town of Jonesborough. It's not needed. It can be destructive. We need the balance. Now, not only am I asking you not to permit this, but I'm also asking you to arrange a workshop, several workshops if needed, and invite citizens who are interested, and have on that workshop what answers to these questions. What is legal for the town to do to control alcoholic beverages and to maintain the balance that we've started out with that referendum years ago that passed by 18 votes? Maintain that balance of food and drink. What are our legal capabilities as a municipality? And what are the things that we do not have control over as a municipality? I'm not informed as to what the laws are. But I believe that this type of activity and what Mr. Callahan has been doing in the past few weekends goes beyond what is reasonable for Jonesborough and goes beyond what is desirable for Jonesborough. So I would like to have a review, and I'd like to participate in it personally, of what is provided in the law, what are our ordinances, do we need to revise any of our ordinances to maintain this very careful balance that is very important. And I'll close with this. One of the things that we've realized all through the past 50 years of building the town from a dying town has been that what we have here in Jonesborough, in its character, and in its prosperity, its economy, is fragile. It's a small town. What we have is fragile. We have to watch it, we have to maintain it, we have to nurture it. This is not nurturing it, it is not maintaining it, and the activities that Mr. Callahan has sponsored at his place of business that was expanded ostensibly to improve his product, his production, but has turned out to be a place for drinking parties, also does not help improve or maintain the fragility of this town of Jonesborough. And so I would appreciate you doing both things. First of all, kill his request for tonight. Don't approve it. Secondly, let's have some workshops and review the law and our ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that'd like to speak to the board?
I can't top that.
No.
I'm Herman Jenkins, live on First Avenue. I've lived in town about 40 years, believe it or not. It goes fast, doesn't it? Bill said almost everything that I wanted to say. I have maybe a little twist to it. Talking about the liquor referendum, I was involved in it from the very beginning. I think it was started, the first one was like 1990 maybe, something like that. It took 4 referendums to get it passed. It took over 12 years to do that. And one of the main concerns of people who were against it was the possibility of the town turning into a big bar scene. And what Stephen wants to do on public property, mind you, is turning, it's a big party. It's a bar with music. And the thing is, he wants it every other week. Don't even understand that. If he came and said, just want it the spring or fall, I might consider that. I said, I might be okay with that. But every other week, I don't understand why he wants that. The bottom line is, what kind of image do we want for our town? All our town events are family-oriented. All of them. This is an adult event. You don't take your child to it. I think there needs to be a solution, though. And the process, one thing I don't really understand is, why are we talking about this 3 days before the event? I don't understand. It has to be a better process than what we're doing right now.
There is. That's what our board will address that later tonight, so I think we'll be hopefully coming to a good resolution on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Yes. Hi, I'm Drew Akachinsky. I live on Woodrow. I was under the impression when Mr. Callahan, who's not here, bought the salt house that it was supposed to be for manufacturing and tasting. And as the years went on, it got more and more. He pushed a little more. We gave him an inch, he's taking a yard. I have motorcycles flying up and down my street every weekend now. We have to hear the live music, the hooting and howling that comes along with that. And it's very upsetting to me. It's very upsetting to my wife. And I'm pretty sure it's very upsetting to everybody that lives on Woodrow. And I'm also want to know, how is the Department of Public Safety going to handle the DWIs that are coming out of here on the weekends now? And now they're asking for every other Thursday on top of that. Mr. Callahan, that I read in the Johnson City Press, is involved in a multi-million-dollar business over in Johnson City, in a commercial district. not here in the residential district. He's the only person on Woodrow Avenue with a commercial business that's selling alcohol. I see skid marks in the parking lot. I see donut marks by motorcycles. My wife and I were walking across the Cherokee and Woodrow. And a car blew past the stop sign there that we saw come out of the parking lot. So I want to know what the town's going to do. I want to know what the police department's going to handle, the DWIs, how you're going to handle that, and what's your opinion on that? Is there an answer to that?
Well, let's finish this part of the meeting. We'll be discussing that tonight. There's nobody on this board, and we're all real protective of what we have here in town and what, Bill addressed there. He's probably right in line with what our board has always expected. We've been protective.
I lived here for 14 years. We invested in this house. I worked for 14 years on my historic house. I obeyed every rule that the historic zoning committee asked for. I obeyed the municipal codes that I'm supposed to do as a citizen of Jonesborough. I don't see why people that invest in the historic committee, the historic zone, the houses, why they have to put up with the nonsense of the drinking and driving that's coming up and down the street, the loud noise that accelerated on the weekends since he started opening his weekend bar. That's what it is now, is a bar.
Yeah.
It's not manufacturing and tasting. It's a bar, live entertainment. Let's call it how it is, and let's try to stop that from happening. He's got a multi-million-dollar business going in Johnson City. Why does it have to be here? What do you think about that?
Yeah. We'll be talking about that during the agenda, and it's, I promise you, nobody on this board.
Where do you live?
I live right up Boones Creek Road.
All right. Do you hear the noise going up and down the street?
No. Well, I hear
care about the noise that goes
trucks
up
and
and down
things
the
like
street?
that, but yeah, I don't hear that.
Where do you live?
I live on College Street. I can hear it.
You can hear it? And how do you feel about that?
As he said, we're going to discuss it,
Yeah,
but
we
I know
don't-
what you're saying.
Where do you live?
Sir, this is not a time to address the board. We're going to talk about it in a little bit, and I think you'll probably be happy with the discussion, so
Okay.
let's just kind of move it along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, anybody want to speak to anything? Marcy, I'll let you speak. We'll probably cut this discussion off in a little bit if we can, because we'll need to kind of move on and get to the agenda item.
I'm Marcy Hawley, 114 East Woodrow Avenue. This appeared last week. May 13th is the first bike night. Is at Tennessee Hills Distillery of the season with Wrecking Crew Harley Davidsons. Come out for live music, 2 food trucks, and more. Music starts at 6 p.m. Blah, blah, blah. Friday, much to my surprise, a truck delivered Potty Johns in the Parsons Table parking lot. And we know the request is for the entire summer, every other Thursday. One of my biggest questions is, are the Potty Johns going to be in the Parsons Table parking lot for the entire summer? Dr. Kennedy and Herman and Jerry all expressed exactly how I feel. I have a folder if anyone wants to see what goes on daily. I'm not going to bore you with it. That's for another issue. But I would ask you please to consider to deny this request. At least deny it until there can be citizen input, a workshop, because it's going to really encompass more than just Tennessee Hills before it's all over. Because we have issues on Main Street with neighbors behind them. So it's going to take more, but I do request that you please deny this request at this moment. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Marcy. All right, anyone else with on another subject maybe? But, we look forward to discussing this, and it's, we've, all the aldermen throughout the year, we've always had, things come up about whether it's beer or alcohol or whatever it might be, and we've always took a pretty conservative line in that area. We've had people want to put tap rooms in Jonesborough, and I've never felt good about that. And we don't want the kind of atmosphere that Dr. Kennedy and some expressed. We don't want that. So we'll come up with a reasonable solution at some point, I think. Got a good group of aldermen here, including Mr. Callahan, so he's reasonable, so we'll figure something out. All right, anyone else for something different? All right, very good. Now we'll move into old business. Just discussion and possible action concerning second and final reading of an ordinance amending the PRD zone parking regulations. And we discussed that a couple of times. And I guess reading through the background on this is something we need to do to kind of prevent parking issues throughout some of our subdivisions. And the PRD zone's a great zone for the town. It really allows us to control the look of our streets, our sidewalks, and the underground lighting. There's just such things. So it's a great zone, but we need to tweak it a little bit. And I think Glenn has put together a pretty good little plan here. Is anything you want to address here, Glenn? The one thing I liked, I guess you gave some flexibility to the planning commission, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think as the planning commission has flexibility, the same as buffering or setbacks, that parking was also a good element for them as well. And this is just a first step to deal with things. Not too long ago we had a picture of a truck in another development that had that cone I think I'd mentioned before, and I'd almost say it was probably 5 feet into the road.
Yeah.
So
trucks are getting bigger, and who knows what it might be in 20 years.
My wife pointed out there's a 6-passenger truck now. I think they cut one truck off and add another one, and you're like, we just can't keep up. So 20 plus feet plus a lot more parking required. So it's been working so far.
Okay. Alderman, have you got any discussion about this?
I move to approve.
Very good. Motion to approve from Alderman Countermine.
Second.
Got a second from Alderman Causey. Any other discussion? If not, call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
All right, very good. Big thing there, just make sure our planning commission, just stays on top of it and works out what's best for the community and the developer too. Good thing is, most developers, when they're putting these subdivisions together, they don't want those kind of problems either. They want to develop a good plan. And I think we've got 2 new developments coming in, and the one gentleman doing one on the Old Boones Creek Road was fully supportive of just waiting and seeing how this develops, as he wants a good product to come out of it as well. All right, now we'll move into the new business, discussion and possible action concerning approval of the employee health insurance for June 2021 to May 2022. It looks like Abby and the team here are proposing we switch from Blue Cross to go into United Healthcare. And United Healthcare is I've used Blue Cross, I've used United Healthcare, and I tell you, United Healthcare has come a long way. So you got that little change, but the good news is with United Healthcare, our insurance cost is only going up 3.5%, which is amazing the way things are right now. Yeah. So Alderman, you got any discussion about this?
I've talked to Alderman Causey about last year we absorbed the increase for employees under the HRA until
the budget's passed.
Until the budget was passed. So I would amend my recommendation to allow that to be part of the presentation and the recommendation.
So moved.
All right, we got a motion to approve that with that addition by Alderman Causey.
Second.
Second from Alderman Dixon. Any other discussion, Alderman?
I just commend Abby and her group for finding an alternative to the 13% increase.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We got a good team here working for our employees, but also they're working for the community, so we certainly appreciate that. Madam Recorder, call for the vote.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Now we got discussion and possible action concerning approval of an outdoor use permit application by Texas Burrito and More on Courthouse Square. think we've done something similar to this before for a couple other businesses. Main Street Cafe being one that's probably the most similar, I guess. Alderman, you got anything to discuss about this?
I think, and I talked to Glenn a little bit earlier, that especially in light of some of the comments earlier, that we need to really be specific about the protocol for allowing alcoholic beverage to be sold outside of the restaurants, hopefully, rather than just, because if we okay it for one, it's gonna be pretty hard to deny it for somebody else. And I think Glenn has some good ideas about how to state that so somebody really knows whether they should apply for it or not.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, you want to address that? Where are we at now? I'm under the assumption with like Main Street Cafe, somebody could carry a glass of wine out there or something like that. Is that right, Craig? Yeah.
Inside the fence.
It has
Yeah.
to be inside the fence. This particular restaurant already had tables outside, but they complied and understood they could not serve alcohol with meals unless it was that area was roped off. So
Yeah.
the ordinance is there that allows that, but it has to be roped
Contained,
off,
yeah.
fenced off, so to speak, and they can't leave that fenced or roped off area with that beverage.
And now this, I know this went through, I think, the historic zoning, which
It
is
did.
pretty strict about this and the appearance of it, and we're all comfortable with that.
Right, so historic zoning passed it, and then before you is basically approving that boundary, and that's what I'm calling it. It's a boundary to where you basically can consume, and you don't leave that boundary otherwise.
Yeah.
So your drink is inside the boundary, not outside the boundary.
Will the wait staff be able to bring drinks without going out onto our street
Yeah,
and back in?
Right, yeah, the way the staircase is, yeah, it's, it'd be very similar to the way it is right now, with the way the tables are set up. This one just basically presents a physical barrier that identifies the area to consume alcohol.
With a meal.
Correct.
All right. Alderman, any other feedback or questions?
I do want to say, as far as with the meal, we do have, in the, especially in the beer ordinance part, we have that high percentage
77.
of food sales from the business, and that's your principal use, and then alcohol is secondary or incidental. I do want to clarify, if there's a table of 3 and 2 people are eating and drinking, and one person was there having a beer or
That's all right.
something, we wouldn't go and enforce it, but overall, those type of businesses absolutely have a high percentage of food sales to go along with the alcohol.
Yeah, I think that's important there. Texas Burrito, they're in the restaurant business to
Yes,
sell
exactly.
food. Main Street cafes there to sell
And
food.
they're a very legitimate,
Yeah.
just a legitimate business downtown, as far as somewhere to go eat and have a drink. So they fall within, as far as for the beer and alcohol is by ABC, but
Yeah.
again, creating that boundary and holding them to that. So they've done very well with. Especially just thanks to the board to look at, especially during COVID, these outdoor uses, to be able to sit outside and have a meal
Yeah,
or have a
and that's
drink,
good.
but still with that boundary in mind.
How with the growth of food trucks, where the food trucks aren't the business, so far we haven't.
No, that's probably something I think we probably do need to address that. And, what Dr. Kenny was talking about, putting together a little group. I think food trucks are something we kind of need to address, because it is a way to skirt around some ordinances at times.
Yeah, I do have some ideas, as Dr. Kennedy was talking. I think I've talked about that even over the weekend, or different agenda items to talk about certain things that we have going on, whether it's food trucks or alcohol. And especially food trucks, private property versus public property, and versus brick and mortar. So it's a workshop, or of course involving the neighbors would would be good. That,
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Alderman, anything else? If not, I'm fully supportive of that. We've seen how it works at Main Street Cafe. To me, we don't accept anything less than that. It's worked down there, and that's kind of where we set the bar. And I think Texas Burrito is certainly somebody that would follow right along that vein. But you guys control it. No more discussion. I'll take a motion. Yay or nay?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Second.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Dixon. Got a second from Alderman Countermine. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, Alderman. Appreciate that. All right, next item on the agenda, I think Matt Townsend, our Park and Rec Director, is here to talk about this. It's the recommendation of the Ben Grizzle Memorial Scholarship Fund. And sounds like we've got to award that tonight. Sounds like to a well-deserved person. We appreciate the fundraisers that people are putting on for this purpose. And Matt, come forward, please.
I did wear my mask, by the way, because of the microphone. So, all right, just to give everybody a little background. On August 3rd, 2019, 2 years ago, we had a softball tournament that we put together to honor our friend and former colleague Ben Grizzle, who passed away. This idea was kind of brought, but just by a bunch of people that played softball together. I think Tommy Madison, I think you know Tommy very well.
Yeah.
He's our umpire down there. It was his idea to actually start a scholarship fund. So we ran into a lot of trouble with weather and things getting canceled and whatnot. So we eventually had this tournament on August 3rd. And we ended up raising $422 just by the teams. And then Ed Grizzle, Ben's father, actually donated the rest to raise us up to over $1,000. So with that money, we decided that we were going to create a scholarship fund, a reimbursement scholarship fund in Ben's name through the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And basically what we would do is we would select a student from Washington County Schools that was graduating that year and was going to pursue education. And how we would work this was, basically, as we all know, college is very expensive. And things that aren't covered under scholarships are typically like books, lab equipment, things like that. So what we would do is have this person purchase, send us their invoice, and we would actually pay that up to $1,000. So it kind of helps us track the money as well. Even though it was donated money, we still want to be able to track it. So the plan was last year to have this and it go off great, and then COVID happened, so we lost last year. So it was pushed back out to this year, and then in March we picked it back up again. And after discussion with Emily, who is Ben's daughter, and the board, we have come up with a nomination, thanks to the Grizzle family, for this award. Do you need to approve it before I give it, or do I?
Yeah, let us knock that out there.
It's okay.
Alderman, you see that item.
You approve it, because I don't want you to know.
You see 7C there, recommendations to approve the 2020.
Move to approve.
All right, we got a motion to approve from Alderman Countermine.
Second.
They've been sitting here patiently.
Got a second from Alderman Causey. Call for the vote, Madam Recorder.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
All right, very
Okay,
good.
now here's the fun part. This person does not know. I'm sure they're probably figuring it out by now. This young lady is a senior at David Crockett High School with a 3.7 GPA.
Wow.
She is a dual enrollment student through Northeast State. Hang on, get the pages straight here. All right, she is part of the club. She's part of David Crockett Lady Pioneers. She's part of the East Tennessee Hype Travel Softball Team. FCCLA, I'm not sure what that is, but that sounds wonderful. Liberty Freehold Baptist Church youth group. Accomplishments, she is a 4-year Lady Pioneer varsity starter, has a 376 batting average, which is fantastic. A 931% or .931 fielding percentage. She's a 2-time All Big 7 Conference, All District 1 AAA selection. Let's see, 3 home runs, 23 RBIs. We'll just keep going down the list. Her plans for the future is to consider a softball career at Carolina University and hopefully earning a business degree. So with that being said, I would like to present this to Miss Riley Hill.
Wow. Matt, can we get a picture with the Grizzle family down here too? With them?
Well, the thing was, Emily texted me, she said, I don't have to talk tonight, do I? I said, well, I better not call her up because she's gonna,
We appreciate this.
yes.
I think you got certainly a deserving candidate here.
Got it? You have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to say that I plan to make the best out of this, and thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's a blessing and an honor.
Riley, you sound so much like your mother. I walked in, and the family's outside, and Amanda says, "Adam?" And I said, "Yes." And so Amanda and I went to school together. And you sound just like your mother. I don't know if it's going to make you mad or not, but you sound just like your mother. Yes. Congratulations. Now, where is Carolina University? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, congratulations.
Very good. Very good. Wish you much success. And Grizzle family, good to see all of you. Yes.
All right, thanks everyone for that. And now we'll move on to 7D, discussion and possible action concerning approval of a special event permit application for the David Crockett High School Pioneer Pride 5K Glow Run. We've had some successful runs for many, many years from them. And Alderman, you got any questions about that?
I move to approve, Mayor.
Got a motion to approve from Alderman Dixon.
Oh, man.
Second.
Got a second from Alderman Countermine.
Jim's about to get me.
All right, now we get this.
Can I go in before
Subject.
Jim? I know what he's about to say.
All right.
Liability and,
Glenn, I'll let you speak before, okay? It might save us some money.
Do we have a representative here?
yeah,
Yes,
he's
Mark.
here.
He sends me that letter every year about we need my insurance, but the insurance company will not issue it till 30 days before the event, so we've always had it.
Well, we understand, but we have to put, they need to prove it subject to the insurance being done.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they don't need to prove it without the insurance. So you'll be officially approved once you submit that. And then my office can't, we're not gonna be out there to see if you got your insurance that day, so we
Right.
always send that letter.
I've always brought it in
Yep.
30
Then
days before.
You
It's
just deal with the recorder's office and get it in 30 days before, and we're fine. But they do need to prove it subject to the insurance being provided.
All right, we'll do that.
I'm like
Adam, you add that to
50%
your
on doing that.
motion.
Move to approve subject to the insurance.
All right, we've changed that motion and got the second. Mark, we appreciate you putting that together. Is there anything you'd want to say and tell us about the event?
Well, this was supposed to be our 7th year, but we had to cancel last year because of COVID, and so we're just trying to get everything back to normal. And we came up with this idea that, people from Jonesborough go to David Crockett High School. This is the community high school, and we wanted this to be about community, and we wanted this to be a fun family event. We actually have a lot more walkers than we do runners. It's more of a Pioneer Pride parade than it is actually a race. You got maybe 150, 200 runners, then everybody else is just walking. And hopefully, we put on the permit if COVID rate has not rose, that we can, we've usually blocked off the streets there. We have food for the kids and stuff afterwards, and we play some music there, and usually get out about 10:30.
Well, that's great. Exercising
Our
outdoors.
coaches have always picked up the trash, but there's always been, Jonesborough's always came through and picked up the barrels and stuff that after we've got them full.
Okay.
Usually we have some food left over for them. I think one year we ran out and they got mad at us. But so we're good.
All right, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Madam Recorder, call for the vote, please.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Causey.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. It's great to see that. And it's a great thing to see all the young people on our main street just really getting their taste of our historic town. So that's how you keep them at home. All right, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action concerning approval of a special event permit application for Tennessee Hills Bike Night. And this was somewhat of a thrown out there at the last second for us, so Glenn, you want to get up and just kind of talk about that a little bit, and then we'll let the alderman decide if we want to just kind of kick the can or what we want to do.
Yeah, so as far as timing, you know, our application process talks about that so many copies should be submitted within 90 days. I can honestly say that there's other times that I have added things to the agenda that didn't, you know, that should 90 days. That didn't occur, of course. That was not looking at it as, when I was reviewing it, as something detrimental to definitely not the neighbors or the community at large. That wasn't.
We've waived that before, so.
I actually borrowed the agenda presentation from another agenda presentation that occurred in that parking lot as well. So, but and as you know, a lot of stuff as far as especially over the weekend, being more aware of more complaints about noise. I mean, just, you know, there's I guess the request before you, and you know, looking at it was part of a charity event, twice a month for so long. You know, again, not looking at it as, you know, again, something detrimental. One of the things about timing on it was originally, I think on the application talked about 10:30. I talked to Stephen about 10 o'clock, and subsequent conversations about time of not just Mr. Callahan's events, but that's one thing that keeps being brought up a lot is volume or noise level and the operations or the timing of an event, not just this one alone. So I've done some different research on different events and different times and such like that, but
Now, our noise ordinance doesn't address the level of noise.
It doesn't. So that was the first thing I went to this weekend, was to look at our noise ordinance, and you know, you quickly find out that it's not necessarily vague, and I have it here today if anybody wants for me to read it out loud. But it talks a lot about the hours of operations of an event, especially a special event or concert or music or bands, and it talks about actually up to 11 p.m. Typically, what I've noticed in Jonesborough is stuck sort of that 10 p.m. mode. I've noticed in doing research on other communities, not that this has anything to do with this event, but other communities ranges anywhere from 9 p.m., 10 p.m., and 11 p.m. Probably 10 p.m. being, in my opinion, the number one. And then it goes to 11 for some reason, and then 9 o'clock is another one. But we don't have a decibel. I've really rattled my mind about thinking about through that, talking to Chief Street, especially with his experience in Johnson City and reading MTAS reports on probably 20 different communities, and they're all over the place on different levels. Some of it is volume, and then how do you tell the volume? You have to have a decibel reader. You have to bring in variables like the parking lot below, the sound of a door, the kind of that ambient sound, which I don't think in Jonesborough, we don't need a whole matrix or an entire measure on how to do that. I think there has to be a volume level, no matter what the event is, that's, again, taking into consideration the residents. Some of our music that's going on in town right now that, again, I haven't been approached about this, but I've been in a lot of communications this past weekend, is it even echoing neighborhoods, different ends of our neighborhood, not just downtown, not just where this location is, where we've had other events in the parking lot, but even other places downtown. There's a big difference on indoor versus outdoor, but that's definitely something as far as whether it's a workshop or me doing that same thing I did with the Mill Creek subdivision and our parking issues was just go directly to the people in those neighborhoods, and I've had really good responses from them, and it's been balanced quite a bit. It's eye-opening on what you have different people's opinions and different standards. Some people it's as far as the noise part, it's volume, and some people it's the time of day, and sometimes it's just a mixture of both.
Yeah. Well, I think at minimum, that's probably a good first step is for you to kind of get involved on the front end and just kind of see where that leads us. I love live music, and we always enjoy seeing artists get out there and practice their craft and play it. But we do have to be careful with how much noise it's escaping from places, and we have to think about what we things to consider. We hold our own event, Music on the Square, and we've got groups out there, and we got to make sure what we do for one, we got to do for ourselves. So we need to think it through. But
what I have noticed is in some places, especially if they're nestled near residences, and it's hard because if you want to research decibels, it's not only it's boring, it's very scientific. Mm-hmm. It takes into effect the distance. You can be 50 feet away and it kind of sounds okay,
yeah.
But you're 200 feet away and for some reason in a holler or something, and you pick up that echo and it carries. Mm-hmm. It's very it's a topic that needs to be talked about. But definitely I think volume, in my opinion, volume and timing.
Well, and hopefully some of the business owners, they're in this, and we have to hope that they're, good stewards of their business in our town, and that they might, offer some suggestions and things that can help control the noise. Because I promise you, I don't want to hear, loud noise echoing through our, downtown. So
I think one of the exercises would, and again, just been reading it this weekend. One of the exercises is very hard to say, in this area at this particular volume, would it be okay for the neighbors, for the residents, and it's hard if you don't have an example. I'm not saying to go put out a soundstage, but that may be what we need to do, is put out a soundstage, put the volume, and actually be around in these different neighborhoods, and you see whether or not it's being picked up, versus someone shooting a decibel reader, and they haven't taken into account the passing by cars, or the train going through. It's really that intricate as far as that.
Get the cost on one of those.
But I do think staging something, looking at the volume and the sound. I think staging something and manipulating the volume to see what does that seem like.
Well, the Barrow House might help you with that. Maybe we can get there one time when they've got somebody performing, because they perform inside and then they go outside.
I'm driving around about everywhere, but that there's a difference between, like, if there's music inside, let's say at the Barrow House, versus if it's outdoors.
Yeah.
Which we're trying to promote. We're trying to promote the outdoors, but at the same time, I think what Dr. Kennedy was talking about, balance.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what that balance is.
Absolutely.
Well, the difference between a private business and needing a special events permit because they're using public property, that's, as I think everybody has said, that the special events it should be primarily family oriented, and we need to address that and have some kind of, like I said before, protocol on what we as a board will approve as a special event versus what somebody can do in their own establishment for live music. It's a different criteria, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think for whether it's workshop or something else, if you're talking about our public parking lot, or we're talking about our public streets, we could have a litmus test or a what's acceptable, and it's kind of like, okay, I meet that, okay,
Exactly.
I can go onto the agenda, and for me to be reviewing these a little bit longer than I did, I wasn't necessarily uncomfortable again with it. It's more of, I think these special events do require more time.
They have a different
especially for the board coming to make a decision.
I think you should enforce that 90 days on special events. If someone comes in and says, I want to have an event next month, then, you know, we're gonna have to draw a limit somewhere.
Yeah, I think the word boundaries come up. I might have even said it a few times, but having a boundary, even, I mean, administratively, as far as these special events, the one thing that the offshoot of it would be is, you know, it's a benign, let's say we think it's, you know, it's another event. Wow, we don't have much time for it. You know, I need to hold myself to that boundary each time than to
Well, we
flop.
probably can have a time limit based on really the type of event and how many people they're expecting to draw. You probably don't need 30 days for a small little event at one of our shops.
And we can do that. We can add
And then 90,
something
but not
that's,
for a larger event that's attracting a lot of people, you probably do need 90 days to plan it and you know, think through all the variables, so.
but I did want to just conclude that I was looking at sounds in a city, and, you know, your whispering is 30 decibels, all the way down to a jet takeoff is 130, or motorcycles. There is formulas to do it. It's just, it gets very difficult to put a number on it, and then if someone goes over, we have to, you know, enforce it.
Okay. Well, I think we got a couple of options, and Alderman, you guys can speak if you want, but, you know, one is just to take no action, right, Jim, and just kind of move on, because really this was kind of at the last second for us, and so we can just defer taking action on it, or we can, an alderman can make a motion and take a vote, I guess.
Well, I move that we don't approve the event for now until we follow some guidelines that we look at, that we need to get some protocol of what we want, what we don't. I move that we do not approve the event.
All right, Alderman, you hear we got a motion from Alderman Countermine to not approve the event, and kind of along the same vein, we gotta, you know, figure out how we're gonna, you know, handle requests like this in the future. So I'll take a second, or if some, take another motion, I guess. If that one fails from a second, we can have another motion if someone's got a different idea. Virginia?
I think we need to do the workshop like Dr. Kennedy suggested. I think we need to get that, and I think we need to include all events that have alcohol involved in it. Whether it's just beer, or whether it's liquor by the drink, or whatever. It all needs to be included.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, I'll second the motion, and given the fact that it's a both and
Yes.
scenario.
Yeah, we need to get protocol, we're gonna have workshops and input.
Okay. So I'll second the motion.
All right, we got a motion and a second. We're going to deny the event, but then get into discussion on how we're going to approach similar events in the future and do a little workshop on that. And I prefer to like to get Glenn out there on the front end too, and be the quarterback of it.
Yep. I would too like to say, Mayor, that I appreciate members of the community and the board expressing their feelings. I've been particularly quiet on this particular issue. I have good friends in this town, dear friends in this town, and I don't like being perceived as the prude. And because there have been times that I've spoken about these particular issues, and I felt like that I may be a lone voice in the wilderness, but it's a delicate issue. We have a good working board. We have a lot of respect for, just be candid, we have a lot of respect for Stephen. I'm glad to serve with him, want to move forward, but I heard it articulated well. There is a balance that we have to have in Tennessee's oldest town, and we have to be open-minded to the reality of choice, but at the same time we have a community that we love dearly, and we got to really work hard to keep our community intact. So so we got to keep that balance.
Absolutely. All right, Madam Recorder, call for the vote, please.
Alderman Countermine.
Aye.
Alderman Dixon.
Aye.
Alderman Crosby.
All right, motion carried. All right, that's all that's on our agenda.
I'd like to ask one more question.
We got a question from Alderman Causey. We'll let her ask this question.
On the consumption of alcoholic beverages. If it's beer, do you have a food limit on it, or is it, you can just serve beer?
No, you can't just, as far as I know, you can't
I'm
just serve
asking,
beer. We've
yeah.
kind of prevented that so far.
That's the,
Does the person have to have food
in town?
to buy beer inside of town?
So, the answer, unless you're a bona-fide brewery, like Depot Street.
Manufacturer.
Manufactures and produces their own product and consumes their own product under state law, there's not a food component to it. Now, they do have food trucks and things like that. But yes, pretty much right now, if you didn't have a brewery, you would have to have food at that
77, I think.
Yeah.
Glenn,
high percentage.
I don't think that's true for special event, though.
Oh, are you talking about special events, or are you just talking about local businesses?
I'm talking about special events.
Okay, no, I don't, there's not a food component in the special event, there's not a percentage. Of course, we encourage food
Yeah.
trucks, but.
I guess we
So
have the
they can have
But-
beer whether they eat or not.
Correct.
But mixed drinks they cannot without food.
No,
Is that right?
it's still, they'd get an ABC permit
Okay.
that does not require the food.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Now,
that has to
when
go
we-
through the board every time.
When we
though.
talk about
Yeah.
these subject matters that are within board control, if there is a food component to it, we can put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't force people to eat, but having it available, I think, is a great goal.
That's really a good example, because we've been approached about tap rooms and things like
Sure.
that, and I've always been against that, even though it's kind of the end thing to do, but,
The one in I drafted the one in ordinance, the ordinance in Irwin. One of the caveats is that there's a space at the tap room for a food truck for that establishment, because we did want to balance alcohol.
You don't
or
want
beer
people
and
just drinking.
food.
yeah, I think we want to encourage people to open a restaurant up and
Yeah. Oh, I
serve
agree.
food
I mean,
and
that's what we
go
need
from there.
downtown is
Absolutely.
I was talking about special events, not restaurants.
the special
So
events.
you'll be getting the workshops very soon.